So, on to the second topic here. We're going to be talking about Kanye West. I think is one of the presidential candidates of 2020 to run up against Trump and Biden. Still, I think it's worth mentioning that he does have an album potentially dropping and is named after his late mother, Donda West. My question here to you guys is really simple. Kanye West was at this rally. He was saying a lot of things that he went viral for. People were feeling some type of way about it. Him mentioning how he almost aborted his daughter, how he himself was almost aborted. My question to you guys here is this. Do you think that he is serious about this presidential campaign? And if so, how serious is he taking it? Or is this more a publicity stunt for his album and more promotion for the music, in your guys' opinion? I'll start with you, Brooks, on this one. What is your opinion on this?
So we saw him, put the screenshot up of Donda being whatever it may be. So to me, this is all a publicity stunt. This is all just him. This is the original purpose of what Trump was running for. I'm just gonna run and get as much attention as I can, drive up my prices, whatever it may be.
So you think it's somewhat of a Trump approach, in your opinion?
Yeah, 110%. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, and there are some things that Africa not having Wi-Fi doesn't make much sense to me. But China buying land in Africa is true. But the rest of the stuff was just crazy, and I don't know, the dude is unhinged, and this is all, like I said, for publicity. I don't think it's a very genuine thing, but we'll see what happens.
And what do you think, Franco? You think he's promoting Donda the album, or do you think he's promoting Kanye West the president?
To be honest, I think that this is most likely a publicity stunt, because he should know that independents don't stand a chance of winning the presidency. But at the same time, he might be interested in seeing where it goes. For example, Brooks brought up that Donald Trump initially ran on just trying to promote his business. But then when he kept winning, since he ran on a populist message and that was working, and he beat out all the Republican candidates during the GOP primaries, he stuck with it, and then he was like, all right, let's see where it goes. Maybe that's something. I wouldn't doubt that Kanye West would do that if he was starting to gain more momentum, to stay in the race. But not pulling out of some states, he already missed the deadline for some of them, yet he's still pulling in. There was a report that came out recently in which he said, someone in his campaign said that he's going to drop out, but he hasn't done so. As we saw, he had this crazy rally. And I want to show you guys his platform that he dropped when he was on Forbes. And this guy is completely naive about how our country works, about how politics works. He was just spouting out religious bigotry in this report. On his natural political party, he said, I would run as Republican if Trump wasn't there. I will run as an independent if Trump is there. Trump isn't dropping out. And then he talked about his previous support for Trump over here. I just want to read the highlights here. Listen to this, guys. On the coronavirus cure, he said, we pray. We pray for the freedom. It's all about God. We need to stop doing things that make God mad.
And that's it.
He said on vaccines, it's so many of our children that are being vaccinated and paralyzed. So when they say the way we're going to fix COVID is with a vaccine, it's extremely cautious. That's the mark of the beast. They want to put chips inside of us. They want to do all kinds of things to make it where we can't cross the gates of heaven. I'm sorry when I say the humans that have the devil inside them. And the saddest thing is that we all won't make it to heaven. That there will be some of us that do not make it. Next question. And then when asked about foreign policy, which is something that the president has a lot of power in as commander-in-chief, he says, I haven't developed it yet. I'm focused on protecting America first with our great military. Let's focus on ourselves first. So this is something that you should have thought about before you announced. On abortion, he says, I'm pro-life because I'm following the word of the Bible.
Yeah, Kim and Kanye have had a timeline of disagreements and close separations, usually over either he has a problem with the kind of way that she presents herself, or the latter, which is this one, Kanye West's mental health and him or her trying to get him help that he really doesn't feel he needs. I remember, I think it was I think it's 2015 or 16 when he was asking for $53 million because he was in debt. So we clearly see that this guy, when he's going through it, it's like a combination. It's like a perfect storm almost every time, right? He's going through something. He has some type of crazy plight or an idea to solve some problem. Or if, in this situation, him running for the president. And there's always an album on the horizon. So I'd go back to what you guys were saying. It really seems more like a publicity stunt. And another thing I want to add in there about this whole Kanye West situation is that Kanye, unfortunately, he can't do what Trump did, by just coming and just going and developing this thing as he goes, because the things that he's saying, it really, he wants to run as a Republican, right? And at this point, it seems like if he were to be in office, he would only be doing favors for probably rich folk, or he's not going to really do much for people of color. He's not going to do much for middle class or poor folks. He's going to just be your run of the mill corporate guy. Kanye is a corporate guy. He has corporate interests. So, and the whole foreign policy situation is crazy too. How do you not have a foreign policy when you want to be the president of the United States? You can't only focus on when you are the president of the United States. That doesn't just mean you're the patrol of this country. That means you're the head. You represent this country when it comes to foreign affairs and domestic affairs, not just in the States. So it's all goofy, man. It's all really wacky. It's all over.
Here's who he's gonna be really running the show. If, let's say, Kanye West wins by some miracle, it's going to be right-wing Republicans who are evangelical, seeing as how Kanye West is for all these religious things when the U.S. is supposed to be a secular country. So it's going to be Republicans that are going to be calling the shots if it's Kanye West in office.
Yeah, and that's not going to be. Oh man, it's going to be a shit show. What are your thoughts on that, Brooks?
Man, just to bounce off what you guys said, you can't be running for president and not have a plan for what you want to do as far as this worldwide goes. And then Kanye being an anti-vaxxer, I have to say that's the least surprising thing of 2020 at all. Franco, you're a biology, or you're not a biologist, but you're into science, you're into STEM. You can't you can't catch these illnesses, these developmental issues through a vaccine. You have to have extra chromosomes. You have to have other things going on. It's not a vaccine that gives these things to you, right? You already have these things within you that maybe something else just exacerbates it. Is that a correct thing to say, or a quick correct question?
What are you saying that there are things inside that exacerbate?
I'm saying that possibly there are things that exacerbates that extra chromosome or whatever it may be that makes you have let's say Downs. It's not something
that's something you're born.
Yeah, you're born.
You're talking about the conflict, how the myth that vaccines cause autism, right?
Yeah,
because that's something that happened, and then there was absolutely no studies that were able to replicate that published work, and then the person who edited that, the journalist who approved that to get published in the scientific journal, lost his job, and then we found out that he was also bribed to get it published. So that's been debunked. No scientists have been able to recreate that study. But aside from that, Kanye West not understanding how science works, not understanding how a lot of government works, and not even being mentally stable is not a good look for him. And it's not safe for our country to have somebody like that as president.
I want to be
We're
clear.
already dealing with a lot of problems with our current one. We already had a lot of problems with previous ones who were good at hiding this stuff. And when he has absolutely no idea what's going on, it's not really going to be him in charge. It's going to be all these other people who understand how the system works, but are operating it in a way that allow the corporations to continue to succeed.
Yeah, I want to be clear on what I was saying about this whole Kanye thing. Is that Kanye? I mean, he is taking the Trump approach, and he would probably, cater to a lot of his audience. But the only problem is they don't like black people most of the time, so they're not going to listen to him. They're not going to get behind him. This whole situation, unless Kanye knows that this is just in his heart of hearts, that this is just a publicity stunt for the music, and he's not really trying to take it that far, he's not doing himself any favors. He's actually doing himself a disservice, and he's going to stress himself out further, being, he already got the pressure of being Kanye West. Like, you don't need to put yourself through this, in my opinion. But, the guy, one thing that we got to give to the guy is he's very ambitious. He's always been the kind of guy who likes to try and step outside of his comfort zone and step outside the box. Now, is he crazy? Probably. And I want to mention one thing that Dave Chappelle said.
Wait.
Go for it. What were you going to say?
Doesn't each publicity stunt get worse and worse for him?
Yeah.
Like his
kinda.
ability gets worse and worse each time.
So for those that don't know, a long time ago when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans in 2005, that was his first big publicity thing where him and Michael Myers were there. Not the Mike Myers, Shrek Mike Myers, not the serial killer, but they were on some type of news station talking about Katrina, right? And that's when they panned the camera towards them. They got their lines, and he says, "George Bush does not care about black people." Boom, cut off. That was his first big publicity stunt. Yeah, so that was the first big one. And then after that, it started to become like gradually more like where people look at, because at first people were praising him. Now people are just like, man, you lost me. Like, I see hella people that were big Kanye fans that are now starting to kind of be like, dude, you're losing me. You got the $53 million tax debt. Got the what else? The red cap situation with the MAGA hat when he was endorsing him at first. Him having all being off his medications, talking about slavery was a choice, all these other things, saying that, and then recently saying that Harriet Tubman didn't free any slaves,
Yeah, that was in that rally too. And I do want to say, like, if him running for president and him being a businessman, and I know Trump is doing this too right now with his business, that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from doing stuff that's going to implement policies that will benefit their business while they're in office? And Jimmy Carter, he sold his peanut farm because that was going to be a conflict of interest before he ran for president. But now that rule doesn't apply, as we see with Trump. And I highly doubt Kanye West is going to sell his business away.
Nope, he's too big in the shoe game. He's the number one shoe distributor. He already passed Michael Jordan with the Yeezy Adidas line. So clearly he's a corporate guy, has corporate interests. But my question to you guys, and I'll let you start on this, Brooks, is it true? Does it ring any truth here? What Dave Chappelle said, I think this was like 10 years ago. He was in an interview, and he said, to call Hollywood people crazy off the bat is dismissive to how toxic their situation is. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said maybe the environment is a little sick. Those are his words.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that it is dismissive to just write Kanye West off as a crazy person who's trying to get attention? Or do you think it's more like an environmental thing where Hollywood is deteriorating him?
I would say it's both. You have someone who, right or wrong, he's gone through it. He's been going through it since his mother passed away. This is someone who had a whole album dedicated to his mother. Still struggling with that as anybody would. Mm-hmm. And as the years have gone by, it's gone like not crazy, but this has gone from worse to worse to worse to worse to worse. And losing a loved one, losing someone who raised you, the only person that raised you, the only person that like unconditionally loved you from birth, that damages you. forever.
So you think it's more of a him losing himself after he lost his mother thing? It's not as much on the environmental side. It's more the pain from losing his mom's.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I think it's this losing his mother. What was that, like 2011, 2012?
Something like around that time.
Somewhere around there. I think that was the beginning of it. But then marrying into one of the most famous families in the world, being broadcasted all the time. You have a situation where his wife was allegedly there was an alleged robbery attempt. Like, these things just, like, they make you worried. They make you scared, and it makes sense that Kanye was diagnosed with this mental illness that he has. And I think that, people are saying that he's going through a manic episode, and it's possible. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist, but it's very possible. You see these very disturbing behaviors from him, and
I don't know how true this is.
Go ahead.
I don't know how true this is, but I heard I saw someone, I think it was Pierce on Twitter, talk about how after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Kanye West had like a psychiatrist who like gave him like this medication, and like apparently that was he was like a horrible psychiatrist because the dose he was receiving like fucked up his brain chemistry even more. And so then that led to a downward spiral of his mental health becoming more unstable. I don't know if you guys have heard of anything about that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's why, like, when he was off those medications, that's when he was on these medications for a while, from what I heard. And then when he dyed his hair blonde in 2016, Trump's whole, inauguration. I think 2017, actually, when he was in the hotel with Trump, and then was saying the whole slavery was a choice, like around that time, and that's when his mental illness and these medications came to light, and they were saying, or I think Kanye or somebody from his team were like, yo, he was off his meds, like chill on him, like it wasn't him, it was him not being on his medication. So I think there is some truth to that whole bad psychiatrist giving him medication situation thing.
He needs some spiritual guidance.
Yeah, man.
I think the one thing to understand about medication is that these things don't cure you. They're just there to, level the playing field, make sure that you're all right in some aspects. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm taking Adderall to like help me focus. And the one thing my psychiatrist told me was, don't let this medicine that I'm giving you think that you're okay. Because you're not okay. You're just taking this to make sure that you can
tell you just like that. You're not okay.
You're not okay. Like, take this knowing that it's just gonna help you function and be okay on a day-to-day basis. And I think people tend to think, oh, I'm depressive. If I don't know what the medication will be for that, but if I take this, I'm gonna be cured. And it's not. Like, you have to go day to day that you do the things to make yourself okay. And I don't know, with Kanye, maybe that just wasn't the case.
I'm glad you brought that up, Brooks. And what I will say to that is that our current pharmaceutical industry system isn't designed to cure people, because that would cause the pharmaceutical industry to go out of business if they just cured everybody. If they designed drugs that would cure people, it's designed to treat them enough so that they keep coming back and keep buying their drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a profit system. So we have to. There's people who discover other methods to deal with their mental health, like reading books on spirituality, reading books on self-esteem and stuff like that. That has been found to be as effective or more effective than just taking the drugs, which sometimes does exacerbate people and makes them dependent on those drugs.
I want to add on to what you just said there. That is so true, and even for small things, right? An example would be my ampicillin prescription that I use for my skin, right? So I have, acne sometimes if I don't, or I had really bad acne like when I was growing up, and even like a year and a half ago, right? So I take these pills. And all it really does is it makes it go away until I'm no longer on the pill. Then I start breaking out even worse than before. So it's like, it's so temporary. and I have to rely on these pills. I have to keep going and buying them. And then the option they give you at the dermatologist, right? You can take this other thing, which is like Accutane. Who, for those that don't know, Accutane is very strong. It's a more permanent a resolution to the side effects are so much worse. And the dermatologist, the way they explain it to you, it's like they're trying to scare you. Like, yo, you could be depressed. You could end up dying. You could this, that, and the third. And it's like they explain it to you in a way where they don't want you to take the Accutane. Why? Because they want you to keep coming back. They want you to keep getting the prescription. That it's even like the small little things like that. They don't want you to be cured right away for whatever your problem is. They want you to become a customer. They want you to be a returning top customer. It's not really about your health. It's about your wallet.
They don't want you to realize that there are holistic products that you can buy for your face to wash 100%. Your face and like toner and other creams that you can put that are holistic that are more effective than the products that they're selling to you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there's several ways.
But about that, you just mentioned like, oh, if I stop taking this is going to make me feel worse. I ended up switching psychiatrists, and she was asking me about, when you're taking Adderall, did you ever feel like the symptoms of, like more anxiety, more depression, self-doubt, whatever those symptoms may be? And I at the time I was like, maybe sometimes, like there were weeks where I felt like really down on myself or whatever it may be, and then I started taking the meds again, and it just like really grew into my mind of like times where I just was I was unable to get any work done. I had a couple of days like that, and it really fucked with my head. So I stopped taking the medicine, and then as a result, my grades ended up suffering a little bit. So like I've been on and off since then, but it's just like you said, they want you to keep going to them, but then they tell you scary things that can happen, and it's intimidating, and it makes you worry. I'm someone I always struggle with school, so I needed something.
The system is so evil, and these CEOs, they're such devils because they don't care about you actually getting cured and about helping you. They're just interested in getting more money away from you.
Yo, it is ridiculous, man.
Absolutely disgusting, and it's something that needs to be fixed. And it's not something that Kanye West is going to fix because he doesn't understand the systemic problems here.
Nope.
Can you imagine?
Outsider candidates like Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang, they understood, but they couldn't make it far, and that's a whole other issue that we don't have to get into in this video here.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to say. Like, even the pharmaceutical, just the whole, the way healthcare is in this country. It's ridiculous that people should feel scared to go to the hospital because they're dreading the bill afterwards for something that needs to be done. They, if somebody is feeling something and they gotta go and they gotta get it checked out, there should be no reason that they have to pay $700-800, and that's what they're making probably in a week or 2 weeks. That's not fair. It's ridiculous. And somebody like Kanye, and definitely not Trump, are not solving problems like that. And those are the kind of issues that we need to focus on. Is why that's one of the things people were saying they want to start moving to Canada when Trump got elected. For that, because they got better health care. And we're so rich in this country that there's no excuse that we shouldn't go to get a free checkup, that we shouldn't go like for a free, ER run. Like, come on. That's the least y'all can do for your people.
How is it that other developed countries have free health care for their people? Universal health. But the U.S., the richest country in history, does not. It's because they don't want to. And they've been fear-mongering people and feeding them lies for decades to make them think like these things are impossible when they are possible. We're the richest country in history. We do have money for this. Mm-hmm. And then, meanwhile, look at how much money is being spent on the military.
Police.
Half budget. More than 10 times, more than the next 10 countries combined on the military. We're in all these wars, stealing resources from all these countries. So they're not the people who we have in office right now are not representing the people. They're not in it to help the people. They're in it to help the people who are paying them, and that includes the pharmaceutical industry, which is destroying the lives of even people like Kanye West.
Yep.
That's the thing that people need to realize, that this is not. There's no way, and I hate when I see Trump campaigns or Trump ads on Twitter, because there's no way that he can be for the people.
Or Joe Biden.
Or the Joe Biden ones too. You know, the ones that they tell you that they're for you, when really that it's gonna be the same shit. They all got their corporate interests. And oh man, what was I gonna say? Train is about to leave the station, guys. Fuck. I had a banger in my head. I had a banger. Hold on.
You said it's gonna be the same shit under Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
Oh, okay, I got it. So, how can you be for the people, Joe Biden, Trump, Kanye? How in the world can you be for the people when your people, the American people, have to beg people on Twitter and GoFundMe for money for their parents' procedures, for their surgery, for their COVID treatment, for their cancer treatment? It's ridiculous. The what are they called when you go to cancer? When you're doing like the
chemotherapy.
The chemotherapy. There's no reason that these bills should be racking like 5 figures. It's stupid, and that's not for the people.
People go homeless off of it.
That's
and
not
there's
for
even
the people.
reports of people committing suicide because they don't want to deal with the bills.
Bro, look at the movie John Clancy. Like, Denzel Washington literally took a hospital over because he couldn't pay for his kid's surgery. Like, it's crazy, bro.
And then they act surprised when people start protesting, when people start reacting, and then they start pointing fingers at the reactions without thinking about what's causing these problems, guys. So we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap this one up, give our final thoughts here. The last thing I want to say here is, let's look at, and this is when we go to the protest today in Northwood, this is one of the things that I've been wanting to say is, let's focus on what we can do to get certain people in office that are going to put our money in the right places, and ourselves, how are we going to spend our money, and where, and we need to figure out who these people are supporting, where we're spending our money, clothes, food, etc., services, you name it. Let's focus on where we use our money, and let's focus on getting some people that are going to put money in the right places. More in education, more in healthcare, less for the cops, less for the military. As you were saying, Franco, they're out there stealing resources. They went to Afghanistan in 2001. They basically did their job in like 2 weeks, and they're still there. And they're still there. It's fucking stupid.
Doesn't make any sense.
And then there's reports that came out that showed that they were lying to us, that the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations were lying to us about how they were winning. And I do want to say, look, people are thinking, we have Joe Biden who's horrible, we have Donald Trump who's horrible, who am I going to vote for? Stop focusing on just the president. There's down ballot candidates, like local candidates that you can vote for who are progressive, who aren't taking corporate money. Figure out who those are. I recommend checking out the Hill of Roses. They interview so many congressional candidates that are running who at the federal level, if you get enough progressives in office, they can vote for these progressive policies that people want. So get informed about other people who are involved in politics who are trying to represent you more than these career politicians who are representing these corporations. So get informed about who is actually representing you in your community, who is running for office that doesn't take corporate money. Don't worry so much about the presidential election. It is important, but in this case, when we have to choose between Trump or Biden, you can vote third party or you can write somebody in. You know, don't be
Harambe,
confused.
Or Kanye.
Yeah. Don't be confused thinking that you only have 2 options. You have more options than that. Protesting is an option. Writing somebody in is an option. But as long as you are getting involved in your community and informing people, you're already doing so much more for this country than simply just voting for a president every 4 years.
Yep. And your final thoughts on this, Brooks?
I mean, there's not much left to be said, man.
That's it, right? That's basically... That's it in a nutshell. Kanye West is, I think, still running for president. So we shall see what happens, and any development. You already know the Hear Me Out podcast gang is on it. Breaking news, group conversations, and anybody's ever interested in coming in, debating us, and joining in on these topics. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, DM us, hmo.n on Twitter. HMON on Twitter, hmo.podcast on Instagram. We got all our socials in the bio. Definitely check us out. Subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Hit the noti bell so you don't miss a new video. You got the sports, pop culture, progressive politics. And we're going to continue covering this whole Kanye thing. We're going to continue covering every development that comes out in all these stories. Definitely understand what you want and what you want to see in these political candidates. And one last thing we want to say, the local ones, like Franco was saying, vote for your local officials. Don't be in the dark anymore. Find out who has your best interest and who's taking, because most of these people are taking corporate money, who's taking none or the least amount of corporate money. So we'll continue on this in the next video, and see y'all another one. Bye.